In a realm where muscle and myth intertwined, we first meet the brawny Finist, a self-proclaimed hero, and his loyal disciple, Andy Daw. This time, the jungle's humid air hung heavy with purpose. Finist was on the hunt for a colossal pig whose tusks and temper had been terrorizing the local villagers' precious crops. Before the behemoth, Finist puffed out his chest, his voice booming with confidence. "Andy, my boy," he declared, "I am the shield of these people, and by the strength of my will, I shall subdue this beast and uphold my glorious reputation." With a roar he charged, his puny attacks bouncing harmlessly off the pig's thick hide. Seeing his master's futile efforts, Andy, ever the pragmatist, unleashed a beam from his laser. The crimson light zipped through the air, finding an unlikely target: the pig's nostril. Jolted awake from its slumber, and enraged by the rude awakening, the giant swine turned its fury towards the hapless Andy. Like a thunderclap, Finist interposed himself, muscles straining against the pig's immense force. But even his vaunted strength was no match. With a mere flick of its snout, the pig sent Finist soaring through the air, the hero landing with an undignified thud, right back onto the pig's bristly back. Thinking fast, Andy flung a rope towards his airborne mentor. Finist, with surprising agility, caught the lifeline just as the pig, in its bewildered rage, began to levitate. Seizing the opportunity, Finist expertly lassoed the rope around the pig's flapping ears and sharp tusks, finally gaining control of the airborne absurdity. Imagine the sight. Finist, the mighty hero, soaring above his village, a giant, disgruntled pig suspended beneath him like a bizarre trophy. The villagers erupted in cheers, their voices a wave of adulation washing over Finist. "Finist, Finist," they chanted, their praise a sweet melody to his ego. But amidst the cheering throng stood a figure cloaked in ancient mystique, the sorceress Baba Yaga. Her voice, sharp and laced with challenge, cut through the celebratory air. "So, you possess great strength, do you, Finist?" she cackled. "Prove it. In the river before my dwelling lies a boulder, obstructing the flow. Remove it, and I shall acknowledge your so-called talent." Finist, basking in the glow of his pig-wrangling triumph, bristled at the seemingly trivial request. After such a feat of bravery, he scoffed. "You ask me to move a mere stone?" He launched into a series of increasingly embellished tales of his heroism. Yaga's eyes twinkled with amusement. "Ah, Finist," she drawled, "how many of these grand pronouncements are truth, and how many are spun from the threads of vanity?" A ripple of laughter spread through the crowd, each chuckle a pinprick to Finist's inflated pride. Humiliated and seething, he stomped back home, the sting of their mockery burning deep. Revenge, he vowed, would be his. He needed a grander deed, something to silence the laughter and reignite the flames of admiration. "There is a way," Andy offered cautiously. "The foreboding tower yonder is said to be the prison of a beautiful princess, seized by a fearsome monster. Not just any princess, mind you, but royalty. Slay the beast, free the maiden, and your legend will echo across the land." The bait was irresistible. As dusk painted the sky in hues of violet and shadow, Finist, with Andy trailing close behind, set off towards the ominous tower. Upon arrival, they found a motley crew of warriors already gathered, their eyes gleaming not with heroic fervor, but with avarice for the princess and her promised riches. "If we vanquish this beast together," one burly warrior grumbled, "who claims the prize?" Finist, ever the opportunist, declared, "My concern is not for the princess's hand, but for the glory of the deed itself." A fragile truce was formed. They would face the monster as one. However, pulling Andy aside, Finist whispered his true intention: "I will face this monster alone, tonight." Under the cloak of darkness, Finist slipped through a tower window, his heart pounding with a mixture of fear and anticipation. The first sight that greeted him was indeed a vision of beauty, the captive princess. "You too have come to meet your doom," she whispered, her voice laced with despair. "Nay," Finist declared with newfound bravado, "I have come to deliver you." The princess startled, attempting to flee deeper into the tower. Finist reached out, his hand grasping hers. With surprising strength, she wrenched free and darted behind a crumbling pillar. From the shadows, a serpentine form lunged, fangs bared. Finist reacted instantly, engaging the monstrous snake in a furious battle. But this was no ordinary serpent. In a horrifying revelation, the scales shimmered, the form shifted, and Finist realized with dawning horror that he was grappling with the very tail of the monster he had come to vanquish. Despite the shock, Finist fought with desperate strength, his blows landing uselessly against the creature's thick hide. In a final desperate act, he seized the snake's gaping maw, his muscles screaming as he tried to tear it apart. In retaliation, the monster spat a jet of venom directly into Finist's eyes. Agony ripped through him, and darkness descended. Blinded, but not broken, Finist stumbled, his foot striking his discarded weapon. Gripping it tightly, he swung wildly, the blade whistling through the air. But the monster had vanished. Enraged and sightless, Finist continued his assault, the ancient stonework of the tower groaning under his furious blows. The sounds of the collapsing structure jolted the waiting warriors into action. They rushed into the tower, only to find chaos and a lone, blinded Finist amidst the rubble. The monster and the princess were gone. Sorrow etched on his face, Andy led the defeated Finist back to his home. Blindness fueled Finist's rage and despair, a torment that Andy could no longer bear to witness. He sought out Baba Yaga, recounting Finist's tragic tale and pleading for her aid. But Yaga, remembering Finist's arrogance, coldly refused. Time crawled by, each day, a monotonous echo of the last for the sightless hero. Even Andy's visits dwindled. Finist struggled with daily tasks, venturing out to buy food, only to have mischievous children snatch his meager purchases, taking cruel advantage of his blindness. His coins dwindled with his hope. One day, Andy returned, his face etched with a weariness that mirrored Finist's own. "I have no more work for you," Finist snarled, his voice laced with bitterness. "Find another who needs your pity." Heartbroken, Andy departed. The inevitable day arrived when Finist's last coin was spent. Forced to scavenge, he found only rotten fruit in the market. As he sat there, despair weighing heavily upon him, Baba Yaga passed by. A flicker of something unreadable crossed her face as she placed some fresh food in his basket before continuing on her way, leaving Finist bewildered. Suddenly, the sounds of chaos erupted in the village. Robbers, their voices cruel and their actions brutal, were attacking the defenseless villagers. Though blind, Finist's other senses were heightened. He heard the cries of pain, the thud of blows, the terrified gasps. When the robbers approached him, their rough voices close, instinct took over. He lashed out, a whirlwind of blind fury, his weapon finding its mark based on sound alone. He fought like a cornered lion, taking on 2, even 3 attackers at once. A mounted robber, witnessing Finist's unexpected resistance, flung a rope, attempting to ensnare him. But Finist, his hearing acute, caught the rope and with a mighty pull, dragged the surprised robber from his horse. Before he could react, other robbers swarmed Finist from behind, and darkness claimed him once more. When consciousness returned, Finist found himself bound, his neck and hands secured in wooden restraints, aboard a creaking ship. Around him were the familiar faces of his village, and among them, Baba Yaga. Then, to his astonishment, he saw Andy, moving freely amongst the robbers. "How are you free?" Yaga questioned, her gaze sharp. "I convinced them I could be of use," Andy explained, a hint of cunning in his voice. "I offered to watch over you all for them." At that moment, Yaga proudly displayed a tarnished golden lamp. "I shall sell this in Arabia and make a fortune," she declared, rubbing its surface to clean it. With a sudden whoosh, a monstrous jinn erupted from the lamp, its presence filling the deck with fear. Even Andy, feigning loyalty to the robbers, couldn't mask his shock. A robber, curious about the commotion, peered down from above, only to be met by a powerful punch from the jinn, sending him flying back upwards. As the jinn turned its attention to Andy, seemingly to grant a wish, Andy, playing his part, commanded it to return to the lamp. The jinn vanished. Just as the coast seemed clear, another robber descended. A gleaming sword pressed against Andy's throat, snatching the golden lamp from his grasp. Time passed, marked by the rhythmic sway of the ship. They finally reached Arabia, a land of bustling markets and unfamiliar sights. The robbers wasted no time in setting up a slave auction, their voices hawking their captive wares. Among the unfortunate souls were Baba Yaga, Andy, and the still blinded Finist. Suddenly, a figure cloaked and masked approached. He surveyed the captives, his gaze lingering on the unusual trio. To their surprise, he purchased them all, leading them away from the noisy market towards a magnificent palace. Inside, their jaws dropped in astonishment. Robots, intricate and lifelike, moved with purpose, attending to various tasks. This in an era they knew to be ancient. The masked man removed his disguise, revealing a face both intelligent and kind. "Do not be alarmed," he said, his voice gentle. "I am a scientist. These are my creations, machines designed to benefit humankind, to ease their burdens." Finist, his voice tinged with melancholy, recounted his tale of heroism and the cruel twist of fate that had stolen his sight. "Yes," the scientist replied, a knowing look in his eyes. "I have heard of your exploits, and of Baba Yaga's unique reputation. Otherwise, I rarely engage in the buying of slaves, preferring instead to offer them freedom." As they shared a meal, the scientist's advanced creations serving them with seamless efficiency, Yadanga couldn't contain her curiosity. "These machines," she began, "it is as if they are magic." The scientist chuckled. "Not magic, but the culmination of 5 centuries of research and invention." Yaga's eyes widened. "5 centuries? But you appear so young." I have developed a special elixir, the scientist explained, a hint of pride in his voice, one that slows the aging process, allowing me to dedicate myself to my work. He led them to his laboratory, a marvel of gears, tubes, and glowing lights. Tell me, Finist asked, his hope flickering, this elixir, can it restore my sight? Not with the elixir itself, the scientist replied. But I do have something else. He presented Finist with a pair of intricately crafted spectacles. The moment Finist placed them on his face, the world exploded back into focus. Colors, shapes, and the faces of his companions swam into view, a miracle unfolding before his very eyes. You see, the scientist continued, gesturing towards a complex machine humming in the corner. There are those who wield magic, who traffic in enchanted artifacts, often with disregard for the world's balance. This machine, it is designed to neutralize such dangerous forces. To demonstrate, he retrieved the golden lamp. Yaga recoiled, warning him to keep his distance. But the scientist, unafraid, rubbed the lamp. The jinn reappeared, its form shimmering menacingly. With a flick of a switch, the scientist activated his machine. The laboratory filled with a strange energy, and the jinn convulsed, its power fading until it finally dissipated into nothingness. I have neutralized the genie, the scientist declared, his voice calm. That night, however, a new, unforeseen threat emerged. A strange, monstrous presence was detected. The hushed whispers of the nearby mountains, a creature of unsettling power had taken residence, its presence a looming threat to the unsuspecting villagers. Finist, now his sight restored by the scientist's ingenious spectacles, learned of this new menace. They say its face is like a lion's, its eyes like a serpent's, the scientist explained, his voice grave. A shiver ran down Finist's spine. He knew that description. It mirrored the monstrous form the princess had briefly taken. I will go with you, he declared, a sense of grim determination settling upon him. The scientist, mindful of the dangers, hesitated. You have already faced so much, Finist. But I owe you a debt, Finist countered. Let me repay it. The scientist, seeing the resolve in Finist's eyes, relented. He presented a peculiar box. Place this near the creature, he instructed. When the lever is turned, the beast will be ensnared. That night, as shadows danced in the lab, Baba Yaga stirred. Not out of concern for the impending mission, but with avarice in her heart. She crept towards the scientist's locker, her eyes fixed on the precious youth serum. But the scientist, ever vigilant, caught her red-handed. Bring me the monster, he bartered, a shrewd glint in his eye, and a portion of the serum shall be yours. Morning dawned, painting the sky with hues of hope and trepidation. The scientist unveiled his latest marvel, a sleek, winged aircraft, a testament to his advanced understanding of mechanics. He swiftly taught Finist and Andy its operation, assuring them that vast distances would shrink to mere minutes. Remember, the scientist cautioned as they prepared for departure, I need the creature alive. Do not harm it. He then presented Finist with his weapon, now enhanced with the scientist's technology. With the press of a button, new and formidable attachments sprang forth, eliciting a grin of anticipation from the hero. The aircraft soared through the air, carrying them swiftly towards the jagged peaks where the monster lurked. After a tense search, Finist spotted the creature's massive footprints leading into the gaping maw of a cave. He carefully positioned the scientist's box at the entrance, the trap now set. With a deep breath, Finist ventured into the darkness. Pressing the button on his weapon, he let out a defiant roar, challenging the unseen beast. A furious bellow echoed from the depths, and the monster emerged, its form a terrifying amalgamation of lion and serpent. As Finist retreated, a misstep sent him crashing against a low-hanging branch, and darkness claimed him once more. The monster lumbered out of the cave, its eyes fixed on the unconscious hero. But before it could strike, Baba Yaga, with surprising speed, yanked the lever on the box. Instead of a cage, a dazzling array of glittering gems erupted, momentarily distracting and then ensnaring the bewildered monster in their radiant embrace. Another flick of the lever, and the gem-filled cage snapped shut. Finist eventually stirred, his head throbbing. Their mission accomplished, they began the long journey back. Night fell, draping the landscape in shadows, and they settled down to rest. In the stillness of the night, Finist was awakened by a soft voice emanating from the caged monster. Curiosity overriding caution, he decided to investigate, despite Baba Yaga's frantic warnings. Don't open it, Finist. It could be dangerous, she cried. But Finist, captivated by the melodic voice, ignored her pleas and unlatched the cage. It means the monster is the real princess, Yaga exclaimed, her eyes wide with realization. Before Finist could fully open the cage, Yaga swiftly turned the lever, locking it once more, trapping Finist inside with the creature. In the dim light, the creature, its voice now gentle, spoke. Do not fear me, I am under a curse. Whoever touches my hand transforms me into that wild beast. I mean no harm, and wish only to be left in peace in the mountains. But people, they never allow it. Meanwhile, a disturbing scene unfolded elsewhere. The scientist, his ambition unchecked, had captured a farmer's cat, ignoring the farmer's desperate pleas about the creature's harmless nature and its benefits. The cat was placed under a strange machine, one that hummed with an unnatural energy, drawing out the very essence of its magical being. The extracted serum was then carefully stored in the scientist's already overflowing locker. Back in the cage, an unexpected bond was forming between Finist and the cursed princess. As Baba Yaga and Andy brought the cage back to the scientist's lab, they observed him with growing unease. They watched as he drained the magical energy from a vibrant, exotic bird, adding its essence to his growing collection of serums, which he then injected into his robotic creations. The horrifying truth dawned upon them. These were not mere inventions, but magical constructs powered by stolen life force. Baba Yaga, her face a mask of fury, confronted the scientist. "You are a fraud," she accused. "These robots are not your creations. They are fueled by stolen magic, the same magic that has unnaturally prolonged your life. You steal this power by harming innocent creatures." The scientist's genial facade crumbled, replaced by a chilling rage. "I do not tolerate those who uncover my secrets," he hissed. Fear gripped Baba Yaga and Andy. They turned to flee, Yaga swiftly freeing Finist and the princess. Knowing they were now all in grave danger. "He's been after me for a long time," the princess whispered, understanding dawning in her eyes. But their escape was short-lived. The scientist, anticipating their move, unleashed his turtle-like robots, which swiftly captured them. He then turned his attention to the princess, his machine whirring as it began to drain her magical essence. Enraged, Finist lunged forward, attempting to save her, but he was too late. As the magic flowed from her, he instinctively grabbed her hand. The transformation was immediate and terrifying. The beautiful princess contorted, her form shifting into the monstrous creature they had captured. With a roar, she broke free from her bonds and fled. Seizing the opportunity, Baba Yaga and Finist tried to escape on a nearby camel, but the scientist's men were in hot pursuit. With a flick of her wrist, Baba Yaga magically transformed watermelons into explosive projectiles, creating a chaotic diversion. In his fury, the scientist unleashed a colossal, armored turtle, intent on crushing Finist and Yaga. Even Andy's pleas that his magical reserves were dwindling fell on deaf ears. The giant turtle lumbered through the palace, its massive form causing the very walls to crumble. "You distract him," Finist yelled to Yaga as the monstrous turtle closed in, firing cannonballs. "I remember, his contraptions malfunction when they're upside down." Yaga bravely stepped in front of the advancing behemoth. The scientist, ensconced within its armored shell, activated a magical beam, targeting Yaga. As the energy struck her, she began to age rapidly, her youthful vitality draining away. Horrified, Finist seized his chance. He clambered onto the turtle's back. The scientist, realizing his presence, deployed tentacle-like appendages, attempting to knock him off. Finist held on tight, but his spectacles were dislodged, plunging him back into darkness. From below, the rapidly aging Baba Yaga guided him. "Climb higher, Finist, you must flip him." Just then, the monstrous princess reappeared, her eyes blazing. The scientist recoiled in fear. Taking advantage of the chaos, Finist wrapped his chain around the turtle's neck. With a mighty yank, the chain snapped, and the vials of precious magical serum within the creature shattered, spilling their contents onto the ground. The scientist, trapped and weakened, desperately unfurled a pair of mechanical wings, hoping to escape. But without the magical energy, they were useless. He plummeted into his own spilled serum, his life force extinguished. Finist too had fallen unconscious. The monstrous princess, witnessing his fall, let out a mournful cry. In her brief time with him, a strange affection had blossomed. As her tears landed on Finist's closed eyelids, a miracle occurred. He gasped, his eyes fluttering open. Sight had returned, clearer than before. He gazed at the monstrous princess, his heart filled with a newfound tenderness. "Stay with me," he pleaded, expressing the love that had unexpectedly bloomed in the midst of danger. But the princess shook her head sadly. "The curse, I cannot risk harming you." Heartbroken, Finist returned to his village with Andy and the aged Baba Yaga, the memory of the princess haunting his every thought. Meanwhile, Baba Yaga, her own mortality a stark reminder, frantically searched for a way to reverse her aging. In her research, she stumbled upon an even more significant discovery: the truth behind the princess's curse. It was not an accident, but a deliberate act, and more importantly, it could be broken. With renewed hope, she sought out Finist, sharing the incredible news. The princess was not to blame for her transformations, and a cure existed. A new mission, a quest to break the curse, now lay before them. but for now, their current adventure had reached its dramatic conclusion.